Okay, so just pause the video. Okay. Let's see if I can get brushes. ZBrush brushes. Okay. All right, so while that's going, so we can kind of look at the way that the dress pants on big men. This might be a weird thing to Google. So I'm kind of just trying to think of like ways. Oh no, maybe big man's not the right word. I'm trying to look for some patterns here in the way the pants are falling on some of these people. I was hoping it might be a little more men in here than women.
That guy in the red pants. With,
that guy?
Yeah.
Try looking at slacks instead of dress pants.
There we go.
That guy's ready.
So we see a lot of wrinkling patterns that are kind of common, usually here in the groin area. You'll see some folding in different areas. Basically, there's just extra material there so the pants can move backwards and forwards and spread out. Same thing down here towards the bottom where it kind of gets a little more bunched up around the cuff. That seems to be pretty common. You know, like look at my jeans, it does that. It tends to be pretty common. So you may add, you know, some detail like that. Though, if it was more like slacks or dress pants, those probably would be more tailored to the person. Though sometimes with tailoring, they actually put in like one. Definitely not those pants, but they definitely will sometimes put in like one like little fold or something down there. So anyway, so that's what I'm going to try to put in. There's some just kind of inherent brushes we can use. There's a fold brush that kind of will give us some of this stuff. So if I go over to fold, fold, I can use that and try to see if it'll give me kind of what I'm looking for. Now, do be aware that the pants, the extraction that you use, are going to be double-sided. So it is just a double-sided mesh. So anything you do on this side is going to get transferred over to the other side. So I would probably go and get used to going into your brush, go to, come on, go down to auto masking, and then go to backface masking, and just go ahead and turn that on. That is going to keep any brush strokes that you carry or work with from carrying over to the other side. Okay, so that's going to be really useful for you guys.
So brush auto masking.
Backface masking. Mm-hmm. Still downloading. All right. So I'm gonna put in some folds down here. Just trying to give it a little bit more of like a looser kind of materialistic look. Let's turn that Z intensity down. And go into like the damn standard. Turn on that auto mask again. Now that turning on auto mask is really only going to do it for whatever activated brush you have. Maybe add that in like for some stretching areas. Just to try to make it not look like it's completely skin tight. I'm gonna go add in, what is going on with this tablet today? Add in just a little pinch right here. So we get that iron line in. It's probably too strong. Get a little bit of it there. We'll put it in back here. So we get one in the back of the pants as well. And we do pinch. The heck? I'm just going to kind of pinch together that little line right here, just to kind of bring in a little more definition. Something like that. Miles, did you have a question?
Yeah.
What was it?
Every time I open up, it's like a pretty basic, but every time I open up ZBrush, there's this like something that's already there. I can't get rid of it.
Hit Control N.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. We have a stitch brush in here somewhere, right there. That's kind of nice because we can add in sculpted stitches. So you'll see the alpha right there. If you have a specific stitch mark that you want to add in yourself, you can just go in and make an alpha if you want to paint it in ZBrush, or not in ZBrush, in Photoshop. So you have that ability if you need to. So if you have like stitch lines or something you want to add in, maybe. Like that. Let's get some more faces. There we go. So I'll give you something you can kind of start off with. I think these are probably just too high, but you can soften them up. So that could give you that a seam that kind of looks like that. Though with him wearing slacks, it'd probably be more like an interior stitch anyways. So we could probably do just a dam standard on the sub. Back face masking still turned on. And actually, I'm going to go and turn on, go to stroke. I'm going to go to lazy mouse. Make sure lazy mouse is turned on. And so that's going to kind of like smooth out my stroke. So you'll see like a little line kind of follows my pen. Let's do like that. I need to get rid of these first. What the hell is going on with the pen today? Okay. So something like that to kind of have that interior seam where they're kind of stitched together, and then go back and do a pinch and kind of bring it together a little bit better. I'm gonna let you kind of clean up your lines. Something like that. Okay, let's see if that stuff's downloaded. Big folder. Is there anything specific? I don't need you to go. Here we go. Cloth folds, cloth folds, cloth folds. The tomato ones, I'm pretty sure I got these off of Bad King, are pretty awesome. And a crease that might be useful. I got a leather strap one, they'll be good for the suspenders. Cloth seam will be nice. Cloth seam, cloth seam. Yeah, a lot of these are going to make everything super easy.
Are those just alphas? You feel like it ever?
Alphas, brushes, just some of them I've made, some of them I have collected from various places. Stitches. Yeah, I really recommend you guys kind of go and look at stuff and download them.
Do you want a button or is it later on?
I'm probably going to do a button. Okay. I'll just download those. Maybe they'll go a little faster than what the other one's doing. Okay. So it's just going to be under Z. All right, so I'm going to go under brushes again, go to load brushes, and I'm going to load them in. So I've got all these. And open. All right, so one of them wasn't able to open, but it's like I got a bunch of them, or some of them at least that did. Anyway, so here's one. It's a cloth folds brush. So what I can basically, it's just a drag rectangle brush with an alpha that is okay. Touch is working on this, but I'm pretty sure I turned off touch. Hang on. I mean, I would probably put my big folds in, maybe symmetrically, but yeah, you probably would want to turn them off anyways. Dude, touch is turned off, but it's still, that's why it's giving me so much shit right now.
Yeah, the only way to fix that is the restart the computer.
But I restart the computer every day.
I think it's whenever it happens to me, like I always turn touch off by pressing the button and then unplug the tablet, plug it back in.
I'm touching stuff and it's not doing anything right now, but it was doing it in ZBrush. That is so. I think I need a driver update. All right, whatever. So anyway, so here's the brush. It adds in some pretty decent folds, I think, for what it is. Let me load in. Yeah, so it should be giving me more brushes. Okay, so it doesn't like that one for some reason. Let me load in some of the other ones. Okay, so that one didn't work. That one did work. That one did not. How about you? Nope, did not like that one either. I wonder if these might be just a bit old. So I've had them for a while.
ZBrush is so weird with like up-to-date things. Like
Yeah, it doesn't like it, like a lot of these brushes. It's weird. I used to use these all the time. Can you give me stitches? I mean, it's loading them. It's saying it doesn't like them. Whatever. All right, so I got my. Let's just keep working with the folds. So I got, you know, that fold one. I got this one right here, which can give me some interesting designs. Probably go pretty soft with some of this stuff. See how it's kind of pushing through without bat face masking turned on. So maybe something like that. It's kind of probably be a bit much, but at least kind of work with that. And then go through and smooth it out. I would do some stitching right in here. So I'm thinking like his belly probably just pulls a lot on all of this. And then I could see like having right here where the horns are, or the scoots are kind of hitting. Maybe it kind of pulls a little bit, so maybe it just folds just a little bit. Like right there. So it kind of looks like it's, you know, a little bit of like a shape underneath cloth, so it's kind of pulling up, something kind of like that. Just trying to be like really subtle with it. Maybe like around the knee. Let's do right around there. And then like on the back side of the knee, like right there is also so something kind of like that. I got my crease. Let's see what that'll give us. It's like that's kind of like a nice little damn standard kind of. So with that, probably if he has like a button fly, maybe like in the front and in the back, we could do. Let's go and turn off symmetry real quick, and what I'm going to do is just kind of go down and then maybe like outline, maybe like where that flap is. Actually, you know what, for him being so big, because that's basically just going down his belly, what if like it went all the way down like that? And probably would need to be a little bit further over. So that could be the flap where the cloth folds over for the pants. But since this is kind of more like slacks or dress pants, you wouldn't necessarily have all the buttons on a button fly showing, but you probably would have like that big obese guy we saw the picture of it. You know, you could see the buttons like underneath like the wool. So go ahead and do like just some indentions of like buttons. Something like that. Or if, you know, if we want to be, you know, good about this, we could do a standard and then do a drag dot, and then we could use an alpha for it. So if you had an alpha for like an actual button that you wanted to use, you could do that. That might be a bit much. So something like that. So they'd be underneath the fabric. So that's why you would have that kind of like sitting underneath there. I mean, if you wanted to like show the buttons, I would absolutely 100% have them as separate pieces. So you could spend the time making like an individual button, turn it into an insert mesh brush, and then just drag it on top. And yeah, for sure. Because like if I was doing my shirt, I would just make individual separate subtools for the buttons. I would not have them as part of the original shirt for sure. But here, you know, since this is kind of on a stretched piece of cloth, I think it would make sense to have it that way underneath the cloth, and you would kind of see the shape a little bit. I'm just going to pinch this together a little bit, kind of clean up that line.
So would you put buttons on a separate subtool just to keep them from like getting dynamashed or?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So like in the film Oni, so Roni, the big monster, he had this suit of armor, right? Big Japanese samurai suit of armor. And so I didn't end up putting it in the final film because they ended up being a pain in the ass. But he had these really intricate buttons that were all over the armor chest plate with like these ropes that like tied the armor together. And so I ended up putting them as separate subtools so I could use them as many times as I wanted, and also so again they would not get merged into the rest of the mesh for sure. So it just made it just so much easier to work with. Okay, so I think, you know, that's not bad. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing actually in the back real quick. Let's do curve, crease. There we go. I'm gonna do a little fly line back here because I do think it makes sense though he has buttons in the back in order to take the pants off, because that would be a nightmare to stick your tail through this thing. So let's go ahead and do, these horns in the back are gonna make it tough. We'll just have where it just basically just flaps over. That'll make sense, yeah. So I'm just gonna put a little stitch or a little crease right there, and I'm gonna pinch it together just a little bit. I'm gonna do the same thing again, get my standard button. So that would be like underneath a flap of fabric. Or you could do visible buttons there if you wanted to. Maybe you would have buttons like we would have, you know, we have visible buttons on our jeans, so maybe they would have it there as well. What do you think? You think you want buttons on top or below? You want a visible button?
Maybe buttons on top because...
Let's do a button. Let's just make a button. All right. Let's do a cylinder. I'm going to go ahead and divide that and smooth it out. I'm going to shrink it down. And I'm going to go ahead and dynamesh the button so I can sculpt it. It needs, let's go back to the crease. I'm going to turn on symmetry. And I'm actually going to go under transform, and I'm going to turn on, see, I need my Y and Z. So I'm going to turn on symmetry for X and Z right here. So I can go ahead and get my little holes. Just like that. And then let's do a standard, actually no, let's do clay tubes. So I'm going to do that for the string, for like the little thread. I'm going to grab my move brush. Just going to lift that up real quick. See where I'm going with this? So now we got the thread. All right, I'm going to mask out the thread, and I'm going to go back to the button. And I want to just do a slight design on it. So I'm actually going to turn on Radial Symmetry. And I'm going to turn on Y. I think Y is going to give me what I want. Yeah, Y is good. I'm going to up my radial count to like a lot. And so with that turned on, I can do a real quick, just like simple design. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just something like that. Okay? And then if I wanted to, I can take down the take that down. So maybe that's just a little something, you know? A little extra detail. All right, so that's my button. Okay. So I'm gonna go and take that, create insert mesh brush. This is gonna be a new insert mesh brush. Now I can put as many buttons as I want. Cool, buttons on buttons. So I'm gonna turn that off. Let's go back to my pants. And I'm gonna run into an issue. Since I have subdivision levels on here, I'm actually going to duplicate, because if I try to put this on here, it's gonna tell me that I need to delete or freeze the subdivision levels. I don't really necessarily want to delete, because I have a lower subdiv I would like to stick with, and I don't usually have good luck with freezing. Usually it doesn't seem to want to reconstruct the subdivision levels very effectively for me. So my workaround is very simply duplicate the mesh and delete my lower. So I can just go ahead and just drop in a button if I need to. So there you go. So you can have a big old button right there.
Okay, so you have two subtools of the pants like existing in the same space.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually delete the extra pants in a second. It's just a placeholder, that's all it is. And I'm gonna do this one right here. Bring it up. And then let's go ahead and duplicate that. Then we can duplicate again. Again, I'm just holding Control to duplicate. I don't need a bigger button. Okay, there we go. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and mask off the buttons, so the pants are just by themselves. I need to delete these extra pair of pants. So let's do, let's see, split, unmasked points. So the buttons are by themselves. You can see here, pants is by itself in a separate subtool. Delete the extra pair of pants. Now I got my pants with my subdivision levels, and I got my button. Now I have my cake and I can eat it too. So, all right, cool. Now I don't really have a textile design on this. I need to add that in. So I'm assuming that the pants are going to be made out of either wool or cotton. I mean, if he owns a plantation, probably cotton. Why not? So we need to look at some textiles. All right. So did this thing ever finish downloading? I think I may have some alphas in here from clothing somewhere. Cannot open file as a. I wonder if is it still downloading? I thought you were done. Oh, you are still downloading. Jeez. Downloads. How do you get to your downloads on Edge? Does anyone remember? I'm trying to remember how you get to your downloads in Edge. What?
I don't know. I never did it in Chrome, but not.
There we go. Geez, it's 7 gigs. Wow. Okay. I didn't think that folder was that big, but yep, I'm wrong. All right. Let me just see if I got some in here anyways. Nope. Here we go. And some cloth stuff. Buttons, stitches, wrinkles. None of that helps. That's not what I'm looking for. Come on, man. Scales, tileable, stylized. JR. What do you got in here, JR? Cloth. Still probably the same stuff. That could be a zipper. All right, if you can't find it, look for it. Cool. I kind of like that. That looks pretty good too. That's on Pinterest, so I'm never going to get that off. Actually, I kind of like that. That's on Turbo Squid. I wonder if he's... Yep, I can just download that. Okay. Let's see how this works. Alright, so I need to go ahead and bring in an alpha, so I'm going to go back to my standard. Let's do drag alpha import. Fabric alpha. Boom. There we go. Cool. So I'm going to take down the Z intensity. My focal shift, I'm actually going to loosen it up quite a bit since this thing is pretty hard edged on the side. In terms of the image, it doesn't have like a fall off or anything. And start dragging it in, see how it looks. It's not bad. I don't think I have enough polys really to kind of support that level of detail. You can see kind of here it gets a little bit better, but here it gets a little broken up. So I'm actually Going to back out a little bit. And then let's divide this again. So it's going to go up to like 15 million. That's much better. I'm going to start dragging that in. Try to keep the stitches all kind of the same size, the textile all the same size. If you want to, maybe do a drag dot. You just bring it in, just drop it wherever you want. That would keep it the same size anyways. Any questions so far, guys?
Why does the drag dot keep the stitches the same size?
Because it literally is just dragging the alpha in at the same size. It's just stamping it. Whereas if I did drag rectangle, like I'm dragging it in and it resizes based on how far I'm dragging it. Where drag dot is literally just stamping it, and I'm dragging the stamp around and then I drop it somewhere. So it's pretty good for like that type of use. If you want to keep things consistently the same size. Do be careful when you get like towards the center. When you have symmetry turned on, that sometimes it will double up when you have the alpha overlapping, or it'll become very obvious that you have symmetry turned on. So when you get towards the center, turn off symmetry and then just add it by hand. Just like that. How are you guys coming in your sculpts? How are they doing? You guys running into any issues so far?
So my whole image is kind of acting up. I'm trying to do symmetry. It's not working, and the blue color is giving me some weird display.
How so?
It's like colorful and not in the usual sense. Like I don't see any of the arrows, so I can move it. So I can't move bits of it.
Mm-hmm.
Was there an update recently?
To ZBrush, yes. Don't try to update the computer. I mean, you're not going to be able to anyways.
So that would mean if we had a version from our computer and we updated it, like,
Yep, probably. There we go. He's got pants. Now, since I have, remember those subdivision levels, when I did the smoothing, clearly there's a little bit of an issue right there. Okay, his spikes are poking out. But because I did subdivision levels, I can go in and lower the subdivision level back down to my level 1, And now it's going to be much easier for me to go back and fix any areas that are poking through. Now, if I'd done this where it was, you know, much higher subdivision level, like, you know, 3 or 4, where it was in the millions, I'd run into issues where I might be destroying high resolution detail. And that's not a good thing. So by allowing yourself to stick with or keep a lower subdivision level, you can go in and make these edits, and you're doing it non-destructively. Okay. Okay. Looks pretty good. Let's go and test it. Go back up to the subdivision level 6. There we go. Now his buttons do need to be brought back up, so let me go down to the buttons. I'm going to mask off that button on the front. Let's move buttons in the back. Something like that will probably be fine. Looks like they're coming off the geometry a bit. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go ahead and mask off each one of these and get them back where they should be. Let's turn off symmetry. There we go. Symmetry, what are you doing? You're killing me. Okay.
Can you delete these figures?
Yes.
What
Does anyone remember? There you go. There we go. So right here. Probably bring it just a little more forward. Yeah, I think we're good. All right, so now he's got pants. There you go. Any questions?
Like on the edge of a shirt or a collar, like see at the bottom of his pants, how would you like?
Straighten it up. We could do it with a baleen if you wanted to, or we could just go down and drop the subdivision level and then go in and just move it, basically. Just use the move brush and just kind of like try to straighten it up a little bit. Like that.
You just like holding shift and tapping.
Yep.
Okay.
And if we go back up. So now it's a little bit flatter. Okay. Let's do the vest. So the vest, again, I'm going to need to go through and do a Z remesh. Okay. And then for this vest to overlap, we can mask out maybe half of this. And go ahead and bring over the vest, where it's going to kind of hit that center line. Let's see, something like that. And then I'm going to take the pinch brush. I'm going to use that to kind of clean up this line right here. And also right here. Just try to get a little bit more angled. So something like that. Just going to make it pretty thin. Maybe a little bit more than I want it to be. Let's turn that intensity down. Okay, I think that'll work. And go ahead and invert that. Go back to the move brush. And I'm just going to take this portion and then just overlap it. I think I kind of like having this button here, so I'm going to leave that still sticking out or poking out from underneath. So something like that. And then we can use the pinch brush again. Actually, that probably should be. That should be symmetrical. basically you just proceed from this point, same way we made the pants. Okay.
Can you show us how to use the curve brush?
Yes. The curved tubes. We have multiple curve brushes. So there's like a strap, curve strap snap, curve multi-tube, curve tubes.
I mean, like, what would be the best thing to use other than snake hook, like, for hair?
Let's do curve tube. Let's do that one. Let me go back to my dummy right here. So it really depends on the hair, the type of hair that you're doing. If you're doing something like your hairstyle, honestly, I would probably take like a sphere and kind of just like form it to kind of fit the shape of that hair. If you're doing something that's longer and has locks and stuff, like Corey, how he kind of has longer hair, something like a curved tube could be useful. So we'll say, I mean, at its core, like, it just does that. Well, you can't see it because it's not doing anything, but let's do delete lower. Okay. It does that.
Oh, okay, so you have to draw and then click on the line to show the actual.
No, it'll do it no matter what. I just had to delete my subdivision level since I'm technically inserting new mesh. But it's an editable thing. Like, once you draw the curve in, then you can change the position of it if you wanted to. Okay?
So, like, same way that you did the ramp horns that you did.
These are dependent on the draw size. So the bigger the draw size, the bigger the curve. Smaller the draw size. Come on. The smaller the curve. Okay. If you want to go under stroke, like I was saying with the ram horn, if you go into curve modifiers, you can change the size under the curve fall off. And this is just an editable curve. Change it however you want. And that will change the size of the curve, or change the dimensions.
Okay, so you just changed, was it the draw size and then clicked on that line again?
No, the curve modifiers, we have a ramp that we can change the size of. And then that will reflect in the curve. So where the ramp goes down, it gets narrower. Where it gets thicker is where the ramp is going to go higher. Okay. Now, in terms of hair, we can use this. Let me do stroke reset. Okay. So what I might suggest is do stroke, curve, and then you can lock the start so that you can then basically just place this, and then the start becomes anchored. And then we can take this curve and edit it however we want. To become maybe part of like a hair shape. Stroke. If you turn on snap, it should stick to the surface of a mesh. It doesn't always work that way, but in theory it should. So whatever your active subtool is, and then when you're done, click off of it, and now it's just a piece of mesh. So then we can do that multiple times, and then we can get, you know, new essentially hair strands. And then that could be how you create hair, or a building block for hair. Mm-hmm.
Would each strand be a separate subtool, or?
I would probably not make it a separate subtool. Again, it depends on the style. You might not dynamesh them together simply so you could go in and edit them if you needed to. So if you wanted to do like a move by topological, you could grab them and move them around. So like for this one, you know, if I wanted to change this guy, I could go to move, topological, and move like just this piece. If they were dynameshed together, we wouldn't be able to do that. If they were, you know, separate subtools, that would be, you know, you may have 30 or 40 pieces of hair, so that could be really difficult to deal with. So I would probably just keep it as one strand or one subtool, but then you go back in and change and edit however you want. But, you know, if you have something, you know, a different type of hair that you want to go for, where is, let's just turn that off. You know, you could just grab a sphere and just start sculpting.
This is for like a short hair, right?
You know, it doesn't have to be short haired. It could just be really anything you feel like it matches or works. Like say Kennedy's not really ponytail, but the puff on her hair, I would probably just use a sphere for something like that. I would not be trying to do individual, you know, hairs, obviously. Miles's hair with your, is that braids or dreads? So with his dreads, I would use, you know, individual curves to get those, since he has so many individual pieces for sure. With Kennedy's braids over there, you know, that's more of a individualized style. So what you might do is use curves, but then there's also approaches we can do for creating like your own specific curve brush. So you could make like a braid and then turn that into a curve in the same way that we've done insert meshes. The approach for creating something like that, I'd done it a few years ago. I haven't done it in a long time, so I'd have to refresh myself, but can always look it up. So Ask ZBrush has a video on that, on how you would create your own. So if you wanted to make your own insert curve. Come on. So, something like that. Which, if you guys are not subscribers to Pixelology
This is
ZBrush,
Joseph Trust, and welcome
probably
back
should
to
subscribe.
another
It's pretty
episode of Ask ZBrush.
So,
We'll
it
insert
is.
mesh brush again.
So,
And here
like,
you'll
he
see a
makes,
tri-part switch, and
it's
next
like,
to the
I don't know,
switch
tank
there is
treads
a
or
weld
something,
points one.
but it's just
We're
a
gonna
single piece
activate
of mesh
weld
that he
points.
just copies.
So now if I come back to my model
essentially
and
a
draw
bunch.
it out, that curve again, you're going to see that it's going to weld the points in between.
So you can give that type of approach too, if you want to. If you have really short hair, like Will does, probably just using the extraction method would be a really good idea also, since his is really close fitting to the scalp. It would give you the least amount of work to basically just get a scalp mesh just really quickly. and just noise it up. Alright. Any other questions or anything, guys? Any other approaches you feel unsure about? You guys just want to work? Okay. Alright, you have the rest of class to work.